Hi, I'm Jeannie Ballou, and welcome to Jeannie on the Beat, Talking with the Talent, Ann Arbor's hottest talk variety show, where I'll bring you up close and personal with fabulous writers, performers, and other fascinating folks. My guest tonight is singer-songwriter Vienna Teng. Vienna has released 5 albums and a DVD, made guest appearances on NPR, The David Letterman Show, CBS, and CNN. She's opened for greats such as Joan Baez, Sean Colvin, Brandi Carlile, Mark Cohn, India Arie, and Madeleine Peru. Welcome, Vienna! So you can tell we are thrilled to have you here.
I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah. I want to start with a question by what I believe may be one of your youngest fans, Olivia, 3-year-old Olivia.
Wow.
And Olivia says, Vienna, I love your music and I love your songs. And how old were you when you first started to play piano?
I was just about to turn 5, apparently.
Okay.
I don't really remember it that clearly, but I remember my parents had seen me climb up on pianos at other people's houses and kind of play around. And I think they took the hint and started looking around for piano teachers. And so shortly before my 5th birthday, I had my first lesson.
That's pretty sweet. And so from there to now, can you give us just a few highlights along the way of
Sure.
how you got here?
Yeah, I started playing piano and then slowly went from learning classical to also learning a bit of jazz and composition. And then my high school piano teacher really changed my life, and he said, well, what are your dreams? And when I said, well, I really want to be a composer and songwriter, he said, well, write out a plan. And so he made me actually go home, and my homework was to say, how am I going to get from here to there? And then so after I graduated from college, I basically started following that plan, and in about 2 years it kind of all came together, and I got to sign with a record label and start the whole journey of being a professional musician.
So you had a business plan, essentially, as a teenager.
Yeah, not of my own accord. I mean, it was really handed to me. It was an
Wow.
incredible gift from my teacher to not only teach me music, but think about, you know, if you want to make this dream come true, it starts with tomorrow, and then it starts with the week after that, and then, you know, what do you want to accomplish, and what is the road to get there? And nobody had ever had me do that before.
What an incredible lesson.
Absolutely.
That's a great life lesson in general.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm so thankful for him.
So your music is quite unique, I think, and it's hard to categorize, you know, in that you get that challenge along with something that really is brilliantly unique. And you've used some terms like chamber folk, and I've heard a couple other terms. Is that a term that you still use today to describe your music, or have you updated that terminology?
Even though I'm now, in business school studying, marketing, I haven't come up with a good term for what
really?
I do.
You hear that, audience? There's an opportunity for you.
Right. If you think of a good term, please let me know. I go by singer-songwriter because that's the most basic. I sing and I write my own songs. Beyond that, I feel like it's actually really nice having an uncategorizable way of doing things, because I find that sometimes I get to play folk festivals. In Europe, we get to play at jazz festivals, even though I'm not a jazz musician.
Really? So you get to cross over into all these other... Oh, interesting. When you end up like in a folk festival versus a jazz festival, do you have to adjust your set to make it more folky or more jazzy?
There's a little bit of that, but at the same time, I've been really pleasantly surprised by how open-minded audiences are. And in a way, it's... I feel like my ability to make the kind of music I want to make is partly people's taste in this day and age, I guess you could say. People are so omnivorous, about the different kinds of genres that they listen to, that I feel like when you're playing to an audience, it's almost like you don't want to presume that they only love folk music. And sometimes we find that if we do something more electronic in the middle of the set and then something very acoustic, almost a cappella with a lot of vocal harmonies, that people respond to all of those different things. And it really is very inspiring to be able to have that audience to write for and to perform for.
So you're really tapping into people's awareness and appreciation of diversity.
Absolutely. And I know that having digital music and having it available online has been a double-edged sword for the music industry and for artists, but I've found that I really love the ability for everybody to find all different kinds of music and to discover a really wide range of music. And I think that it's really shaped a kind of audience for live performance that is really fun.
And actually then you get to the opportunity to expose people to different things as well. Because I know you really like to push the envelope and you know, continue challenging yourself to go where no singer-songwriter has gone before, right?
That's
pretty exciting.
Yeah, I often feel like I'm not doing anything super original, but I am taking little bits of what's, you know, what's uniquely interesting to me and kind of combining them into something.
Yeah. So you were pretty young when you burst onto the scene, appearing on the David Letterman show. That's very exciting. You were just out of college, right? So what impact did that have on you, having fame at such a young age? What was that like?
In a way, it came so early that I'm glad that I had no idea what to do with it. And it was, there were a few things that were really great about it that I'm grateful for. One, that I got to do it at all. Of course, performing on a show like that was amazing, as well as being interviewed on NPR and other places. But it was also, I had those moments of very high-profile events, and then I kind of went back to having to play coffee houses and open mics around the country. So I got a little bit of both. You know, I got the
drags.
Yeah, and you know, the waiting, you know, at 5 a.m. in the airport with all of my equipment all by myself. So
it didn't totally transform everything every day. So you'd like,
It was a great combination of actually getting a few lucky breaks that made the road possible for me, but also that I still had to do the work, you know, and so it kept me humble in a big way.
Well, what were some of the challenges for you of being put into such a big limelight at such a young age?
I think the most challenging part was, and this may sound kind of, I'm trying to figure out how to say it, but like coming up with what my image was kind of, it was the hardest part, I think. So my background was I grew up in this very technical, kind of nerdy family. I grew up in Silicon Valley and hung out with software engineers. So the whole idea of having, you know, a visual aesthetic or kind of, you know, a creative vibe to what I was doing didn't really come naturally to me. I figured, well, I can show up in a t-shirt and jeans and, you know, my hair, you know, with an $8 haircut or whatever, you know, and if I just play my music, that's what people care about. But then slowly over the years realizing that there is so much art connected to music. You know, photography for an album is a form of the art that goes into the music and the video shoot, or even what you choose to wear on stage and the musicians you choose to be around you, and what kind of overall, you know, vibe you're creating. That's all part of the creative process of music. So that was, I think that was the hardest thing for me, just developing an aesthetic sense for all the other pieces that go into being a performing artist.
That's so interesting. So really what you're talking about is the holistic package, so to speak. It's sort of like food preparation. It's not just the food and how it tastes, but how it's presented.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And I resisted it for a while, you know, because I felt like this is all superficial, you know, this is all about, you know, trying to...
The look.
Yeah, it's like packaging, you know.
Yeah.
And so I did resist that for a while, and it really took my good friend Alex, who became one of my great collaborators over the past few years. He told me that, you know, everything can have artistic intent. And everything can be part of an artistic statement that you're making, and
it's very zen.
And to take care in everything that you do.
All right. Well, I am super excited to hear your music. So how about if we step into the other studio and have you play for a bit?
That'd be great.
Okay.
So this first song is called Blue Caravan, and it was written about a minivan, actually. I thought it should be a romantic song about a vehicle that doesn't really get as much love as some other kinds of cars do. So this is Blue Caravan. So blue, blue caravan, won't you carry me down to him soon? Blue, blue caravan, won't you drive away all of these tears? For my true love is a man that I haven't seen in years. He said, go where you have to, for I belong to you until my dying day. So like a fool, blue caravan, I believed him and I walked away. Oh, my blue, blue caravan, oh, the highway is my great wall. But my true love is a man who never existed at all. Oh, he was a beautiful fiction I invented to keep out the cold. But now my blue, blue caravan, I can feel my heart growing old. Oh, my blue, blue caravan, I can feel my heart growing old. This next song is a song that I wrote in collaboration with my dear friend Alex Wong. I don't do a lot of co-writing, not because I don't want to, but I am a very solitary writer. And I'm still getting used to the idea of sharing this very private, very vulnerable process with another person in the room. And he and I have been friends for years, and he does a lot of co-writing, so I felt like he was sort of holding my hand through the whole thing. And it began with this piano motif in which my hands were moving apart from each other. And that seemed to be an interesting cue for us to play with. And some of the other pieces of music that I had wanted to bring into it had this sort of military, almost antiquity kind of feel to them. And those things together sort of suggested the idea of the war or an end of a war or thinking back to a time right before a war. And it eventually became a song called Antebellum. And since Alex isn't here, I'm going to try to sing both of our parts. So this is me doing what is eventually a duet in normal life called Antebellum. In the fall, we circle through the leaves and talk about the little ones. And we smile, but never say too much, the moment always vanishing. One by one, the neighbors' lights come on. Our October day is almost gone. I know the borderlines we drew between us. Keep the weapons down, keep the wounded safe. I know
antebellum innocence was never meant to see the light of our armistice day. In the spring, we climbed the rolling hills and talked about our budding plans. And we smiled, our faces like a mirror, showing us our secret sides. But then the fight, the sharp words splintering the night, how I couldn't be what you need, but oh, how I could make you bleed. I know the borderlines we drew between us. Keep the weapons down, keep the wounded safe. I know our antebellum innocence was never meant to see the light of our armistice. But how much would I give to have it back again? How much did we lose to live in this way? You'll go home, I'll stay here. Seasons keep on marching. I'll stay here. You'll go home with only strangers watching. You'll go home, I'll stay here. Seasons keep on marching. I'll stay here. You'll go home with only strangers watching. I know the borderlines we drew between us. Keep the weapons down, keep the wounded safe. I know our antebellum innocence was never meant to see the light of our armistice day.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Vienna, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
It was really, really special. I just love hearing your music. It's really exciting.
Thanks.
So your music has had a lot of adjectives used to describe it. Some of the most common ones I've seen are like dreamy and ethereal and moody, you know, and I would describe them that way too. Some of the songs, not all. But I'm really curious to know, do you feel like those descriptors describe your personality? Or, you know, how would your friends describe you? Would they describe you as dreamy and ethereal and moody? Or, you know, are you really different in your daily life?
I would say I am very different in my daily life. And I think it's one of the interesting things that I've heard at shows, that I'll play a song and then I'll talk between the songs, and people will come up to me and say, your speaking voice sounds so different from your singing voice. And I think that it actually is manifestation of like the kind of two different parts of my personality. I feel like music is this beautiful, safe place for me to express a part of myself that doesn't come out in daily life. And not to say that I'm repressing it, but I really like being, you know, methodical and kind of analytical in a lot of my daily life, and being able to put that aside and kind of go into this much more mysterious realm is one of the great things I love about music.
Well, it's a way for you to really achieve balance. You know, left brain by day,
Exactly.
right brain by night.
Absolutely.
And hopefully get some sleep so you can get your
Right.
left brain working again the next day.
No, very much so. I've realized that I'm someone who needs that balance a lot just in my life, to be able to fulfill both of those parts of the brain.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was funny because when I was a full-time musician, I actually found myself getting really into the accounting for my business.
Oh, really?
And I realized, like, why am I doing this? Nobody likes accounting, do they? But I realized it was feeding that other part of my brain that when I was writing music and performing and all that, that part wasn't a piece of it.
So, in terms of all of the different parts of producing music, you know, you've got the songwriting, the composing, the actual music, and then performing and recording. Which of those do you find really juicy, most satisfying?
That's a hard question. I would say the part that feels the most meaningful might be the writing and the creation of the music. That's the hardest part. So I wouldn't call it the enjoyable part, but it's the part
that's
that
the hard part for you.
It really is. Yeah, I'm a very slow writer, and so it always feels like this struggle and this constant effort to keep all the kind of critical voices at bay, and to really reach down into something pure. So that part is difficult, but it's also, to me, the most rewarding when it finally happens. And then performing is just a joy. You know, I just
that's
love
the easy part.
Yeah, I
isn't it,
love
buddy?
connecting with the
Okay.
audience, and it just feels like, you know, having fun. And I always feel like I'm part of some conspiracy in that, like, I actually get paid to do that. So that part is wonderful.
That's great.
That's the fun part.
That's so interesting, because I've talked to other people who it's just the opposite for them. You know, would you describe yourself as an introvert or an extrovert?
I think I'm naturally more of an introvert. I do really love being around people, but I think it's kind of in this limited way. I really love being around people and really sharing and deeply connecting with people. So I think that's why I like performing more than, say, like going to a party or going to a bar to hang out, because I really like the idea of cutting through all these different layers of, you know, small talk and other stuff, and getting down to, you know, really moving people or really having some deep energy come
from
from the
the
audience.
matter.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Exactly.
I love that. I really want to ask you about a special song
Sure.
called Grandmother's Song.
Oh, right.
It's an awesome song. I love it. For those who haven't heard the song, from what I understand, you were inspired to write this song by a lecture that you got from your Mandarin-speaking grandmother. And basically her, you know, looking out for your well-being and your security, wanting you to be secure, and saying, you know, give up this music life. You know, you're not going to be able to take care of yourself with music, and you need to find a good man, right, to settle down, who's going to take care of you.
Exactly.
And this song is your response to that. I thought, first, I just want to say how brave I think you were to write that song, to really put that out there, to take from your grandmother too, you know, like, I'm going to take grandma's words and put them out there in this song. But I wonder if you could talk about that song a little and what it means to you.
Sure. Well, I did get that lecture a lot from my grandmother, and so the first 2/3 of the song is kind of a translation of, you know, the things that she told me. But the last third of it was the part that I really had to understand how I was going to write before I could write the song. Because I had this idea of, like, oh, I could, you know, put this lecture to music. But I realized that until I really understood where, what she was really getting at underneath her words, it would just be kind of a satire, you know. I would be sort of making fun of her.
Yeah.
And I really didn't want to do that. So it took it took a couple of years of me maturing to the point where I understood, okay, she's not telling me just to get a man, although that's what she's saying. What she's saying is that find a way in which you'll be deeply fulfilled in a partnership with somebody. Don't settle for less than that. And also, if you're looking for security, look for security by being so good at something that they can never take this away from you. And it's something that people value so much that, you know, you'll always be secure in that. And so I realized that in the context of how she grew up and all the things that she went through, because she lived through a very tumultuous time and had a lot of struggles. And I think that if she had been in my situation, this is what she would have asked me to do. And so the rest of the song was more trying to figure out how do I interpret what my grandmother's saying and still live my own life?
Yeah.
But honoring everything she's wanting me to do with my life.
Did she buy it? Did you?
She is happy now.
Is she okay with
yeah.
that? Okay, good. Yay, thanks, Grandma. Well, I just have one more question, and that is, if folks want to find out more about your music, and and you, what's the best way for them to find out about you?
Well, I do have a website.
Okay.
And I'm also actually on Facebook and Twitter quite a bit.
Okay.
And what I really love about that is the chance to just have this continuous multi-way dialogue with a lot of different parts of my audience. And people leave really thoughtful comments on all kinds of things, and we have these really great discussions. So
All right.
it's something I really
so
love.
your website is?
ViennaTeng.com.
Okay, super.
And then you can look on Facebook.com/Vienna Teng.
All right. It has been an incredible pleasure and honor to have you tonight.
Thank
I really
you.
want to thank you so much for being here.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Vienna. And thank you, Ann Arbor, for joining us. Remember to tune in the fourth Tuesday of each month at our new time, 8 p.m., and look for rebroadcasts of Jeannie on the Beat at various times throughout the week. Ciao, Ann Arbor.